Armamoto, when I first thought about asking you out, I initially had some reservations. I gotta admit, I thought, what would a smoking hot babe like her see in a relatively good-looking guy like me? Then I thought, the heck with it, I gotta ask her. And let me tell you, baby, ever since the day we met, last Tuesday, those have been the greatest days of my life.
Spice King, I am sorry, but I cannot be your girlfriend.
Wait, why not?
I wish I could, but I cannot be your GF.
Hang on here. How hard exactly are we wishing now? Are we talking crystal ball, shoot star, penny in the fountain? I mean, you think maybe you could give me a ballpark estimate?
I must go off to college now.
Oh, college. Well, that's no big deal. I mean, that's not a deal breaker. Look at me. I went to college and came back. People don't believe me, but I did. My secret is I used the academia nut. People think it works like the rare candy for knowledge, but in reality, it's more like the warp flute from Super Mario 3, except it's, every time you use it, you skip up a university level. Yeah, anyway, you could come back. It's no big deal.
I am afraid I cannot come back.
Okay, why can't you come back?
I don't want to. You are creepy and you smell.
Armamoto, I told you already. I smell that way because I'm a working man. I thought you of all people would understand, man.
And you brought me to this Chuck E. Cheese rip-off.
Chuck E. Cheese rip-off? Come on, Armamoto. Okay, you're not buying it. Look, it had to be this restaurant in particular.
We're called Crushing Melons, say the name.
Okay, sorry. It had to be Crushing Melons because, look, the Chuck E. Cheese across town kicked me out. I got banned from it because I pulled a fire alarm. There's a story behind that one. And Master Lee's Playground, I smell Tex-Mex and candy. We were booked this weekend, so I had to come here.
And you say that creepy Tex-Mex and candy thing?
I mean, yeah. Gotta say the Tex-Mex and candy thing. I mean, it's my brand. I'm a good marketing guy. It's a talent, really. It brings in the money.
You mean the gift certificates that the drink cup gave you?
They're called Melon Bucks. And you will refer to me as a booty gummy like that, you guy?
Yes, the gift certificates that the drink cup gave me. But look, they're just as good as cash. I mean, girl math, am I right?
Girl math. I don't think you heard him, Yamamoto. He said, am I right? That means it's funny. You're supposed to laugh, but you're not laughing. I don't get it. Am I right?
It's also awkward that you found appropriate to bring your meat friend with you.
Well, yeah, I did, because, he's my bodyguard.
You never know when somebody's going to try to mug you at a Chuck E. Cheese ripoff, Yamamoto.
And your bald friend.
Now, hang on, Armamoto. Kmart is not that bald. And, look, I brought him along because, he's got a robot wife.
He's an android.
You sound like a robot, so I thought he'd be a good discussion point, that's all.
What about that guy?
Yes, Simon, what about me? Why am I here?
Hello? Earth Driver Man. It's in your name. You drive us around. Look, baby, I know what you're getting at here. I can change, honestly.
Actually, no. You see, Melon Bucks must be fully spent and cannot be exchanged for any fungible token. It was in the fine print. Therefore, we cannot make any change for you. Sorry, but not sorry.
Farewell, Simon, forever.
But baby, no. Armamoto, don't leave. No! Armamoto!
What's wrong, Simon? Did she run off with the Melon Bucks? It's okay. I have a pocket full of butterscotch ripples that we can pay with.
Are you serious right now? Well, I'm glad somebody brought something to pay with, because she did run off with my Melon Bucks, and just when I thought it'd be creepy to bring you along, you come through for me just like this right here.
But Simon, what about Armamoto? She's getting away. You may never find another girl like her in the world.
I know, man. She is one hot babe. But just between you and me, she sounds a little bit like Ben Tramer. I think the cousins or something. They both deny it up and down, but if it were true, me dating her, it just messed up the band dynamic and Ben might get mad at me. I better just leave that one gone.
Cowabunga, dudes and dudettes. Welcome to another episode of
It's just a regular show about the regular show. I'm your host, that one guy. Let's get into it. So I hope everybody's been doing well since we last talked. Today's date is November 11th, 2023. For those of you that are keeping track, you're probably hearing this a year later. Who knows yet? I haven't even got season 2, episode 1 put out yet, so maybe I'm a little bit ahead of schedule. I don't know. Anyway, a couple things I want to talk about today before we get into the episode. One being we have a new number 1 hit on the music. I checked back in again today. We'll talk about that later. 2, Invincible Season 2 dropped last week. The first 2 episodes are out as I'm speaking right now. I watched both of them, and I must say, it's pretty good. It hasn't hit the sophomore slump yet. I enjoyed the first season. I've read about halfway through the Invincible comics. You know, the Image comics. And they're pretty good. I enjoy that comic probably more than any of the other Image comics. Well, I don't read a whole lot of comics anymore, but whatever. The animation, or no, I'm sorry, not anime. I guess it's more of an animated series, but it's pretty doggone good. It warrants that 8.5 star, 8.1 star, whatever that it gets review on Amazon Prime. All around, I honestly, the first thing that strikes me about the second season is it's funny. It's very, very funny, especially for. It reminds me kind of like Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, in that it has all these like tonal gear shifts. But when it's funny, it's funny. Like the comedic relief it's I can't remember his name, but the guy that shoots the fireballs on the Guardians of the Globe, his lines are hilarious. Just the situational irony that he finds himself in is very funny. And I got to say, this season, well, the whole series in general is not following the exact same timeline that the comics followed, but it's staying fairly true to the comics in its own way, though. So that's pretty cool. The animation looks great. It's not the greatest animation, but it is very good. That's the best way I know how to put it. I'm not going to go into detail on it because I don't really know how to describe visual animation. But I enjoy watching it. Somebody else that was watching it told me that the animation reminded them of Batman, the animated series. And I can't understand that. I can't empathize with that. I mean, like, Batman was drawn on black paper, if I recall correctly. And once again, I'm not a visual artist. But, maybe they're drawing parallels on the tone of the animation or something. I don't know. It's one person's opinion is not necessarily another. And if they enjoy the show for that, then awesome. Whatever. It's not going to ruin my day just because I can't comprehend what they're saying. Maybe they know something that I don't. The voice acting, very well done. Very well done. The character development that they go through, or at least the amount of time they go through and giving each character their own moments, that's really good. It's kind of similar to the regular show in that regard. Every character eventually gets their own moments to shine, and they all feel like they play somewhat of a cool role. And really, I think the thing that stands out about it the most, besides the voice acting, besides all of this stuff, is the way that they tell the story. It's very convoluted. It's very, and I mean that in a good way. Like it's convoluted, but it's done in an organized fashion. There isn't a whole lot of these. You've got to look for little tiny details in the background to piece stuff together. It's not like that. It's not necessarily, one of these like Metal Gear games where you've got to see all the Easter eggs to make sense of everything. No, they lay pretty much everything out for you. But the cool thing about it is there's so many storylines or threads that are going on at the same time, and they just keep weaving them back in and out. And it's very reminiscent of X-Men, the animated series, where you won't, like, a storyline will pop up and you won't see it again for another 5 or 6 episodes. So it'll be, if you're watching it, as the show gets put out, it'll be 5 or 6 weeks until that storyline gets brought up again. You're like, oh yeah, that guy. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on, and they do that so well. I'm kind of at a loss of words what to say. So I guess the last thing I'll say here is even though I kind of know or at least I think I know where the story's going because I've read quite a ways through the comics. It's still like the appeal to it is how are they going to pull this off? And also, I know that they're just going to execute it well, or at least I have faith that they will. So, yeah, chalk it up to one of the good Seth Rogen productions right there. I haven't seen Mutant Mayhem for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I hear that's pretty good too. I don't know. I enjoy this show. This and Goosebumps. Those are like, I'm enjoying watching those on over the weekends when I'm off work. So, yeah, there's that. That's about all I got. Quite honestly, I'm just pretty excited to get into this episode of the regular show because I watched it again last night and it is really, really good. Spoilers. I mean, I'm just going to give it away. We'll get into it. Let's get into the contextual media here. Like I said, there's a new number one single. It may have been like this for a while, but Lady Gaga, I Was Born This Way is number one in the U.S., and Adele's Someone Like You is number one in the UK. I know the Someone Like You song. I don't really know the Born This Way song. That's okay. Whatever. That's the change. Not really getting into video games or anything. One of the events, just to kind of put a little landmark on a chronological landmark, if you will, on the time that this was around. Charlie Sheen, the week prior, or not the week, a few days before this episode aired, Charlie Sheen got fired from the 2.5 Men set. So I can remember that happening. When I say March 11th, 2011 or whatever, I can't necessarily remember when that is, but it's like, yeah, I remember Charlie Sheen getting fired. And I kind of remember now what was going on in life around that time. So yeah, little landmark there for you. Anyway, I don't want to waste any more time with that stuff. Let's get into the episode. But I Have a Receipt is the 12th episode of the second season of regular show. It aired March 7th, not 11th of 2011. So the day prior to this, Charlie Sheen got fired. It aired September 14th, 2011 in the UK, directed by Mike Roth, written and storyboarded by Kat Morris and Minty Lewis. I think she is the one that voices Eileen, so sweet. Okay. The synopsis, Mordecai and Rigby try to get a refund after their game night is ruined by a bad role-playing game. I don't think there's anybody new that we haven't seen before, but the voices, Mordecai is J.G. Quintel, Rigby, William Salyers, Pops Benson Muscleman is Sam Marin, Skips is Mark Hamill. The characters of Storekeeper and Dungeon Master and Guy, so there's 3 voices there. So as those contracts worked, I think you get 3 voices out of the voice actors. Roger Craig Smith, he's kind of a regular on the regular show at this point. Woman number 1 and woman number 2, April Stewart. I think she was on the episode with Susan. I think she voiced Susan. I might be mistaken, but I think so. I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all about this episode. It is kind of similar to Aqua Teen Hunger Force in that, not necessarily in the content or even the humor style, but in the packaging of this episode. It's so densely packed with humor that if you aren't paying close attention, a lot of it's just going to whiz right past you. But there's the stuff's coming at the humor in this is coming at you so fast that you've really got to be paying attention. And I had to rewind it a few times to like look at all the detail in this episode. So you can imagine that was probably, or as you can probably imagine, that was pretty fun, on Hulu, having to back up 10 seconds at a time and not being able to pause the video at the right moment. But whatever. The one thing, well, I've said a bunch about this episode, but if I say one thing that sticks with you this episode, or one way to describe this episode, this is the most Simpson-esque episode, the most Simpsons-influenced episode that I have seen up to this point. Okay, and it's very it's very apparent, at least to me, it seems like. That's my opinion of it. And it should be added to that statement that this is probably the best episode that I've seen so far in this run. No, probably to it, actually. Out of all of the episodes that we've talked about up to this point, this one is the best one. I don't know what it is about it, but actually I can kind of pinpoint it. the actual formula that works for the show that they found it at this point. This is probably the first episode where everything's in place. It may not be arranged perfectly, but everything's in place and it checks pretty much all the boxes. We're in for a solid episode here. So let's get into it. All righty. So this is a bit of an unorthodox opening for the regular show because there are no birds chirping at the title screen. There are crickets chirping. That is because this is a nighttime opening. So the first frame is the park. It's the house at nighttime. The lights are on. Something's going on, and I'll just give it away. It's the game night, park game night. So we hear Benson clear his throat, like real loud. He's like, ahem, and then the scene cuts, and it's like a continuous cut almost. Like it cuts in, and he's talking to the guys. He's like, all right, so the options for park game night are cards, double dutch, tiddlywink, so on and so forth. He names all these generic things. And then he stops, he pauses, and he looks up and he glances over and he says, my mom is not a game muscle man. And that's, at first part of me was like, oh no, we've already gotten into that. It's like recycled material. And I love the my mom jokes, but it's like, uh-oh. But then the other part of me thinks that's actually kind of a brilliant use of that because it's got two different meanings. It's like, is Muscle Man talking about his mom or is he talking about Benson's mom? Because he knew it would be read by Benson. And, Benson, furthermore, he kind of qualifies this by saying that makes no sense. So it kind of like now it's passable for a kid's show. And Muscle Man says, I guess I'll win, and he gives high fives, goes to 5. And now, granted, this is no King of the Hill Luann Virgin 2.0. Yes, that's the episode name, Virgin 2.0. This is no King of the Hill Virgin 2.0 of Luann coming out of the water, being dunked in the water, yelling, I'm a virgin, and then the guys with the frisbee coming up. No, this is no, you don't know what I'm talking about. Go watch that episode. There's like a triple entendre type joke in there. It's got 3 different punchlines, and I've seen it 25 times at least, and I was watching it the other day, and I just saw that, and I thought that is a brilliant joke because it can be taken so many different ways, and it's like a joke later on a joke later on a joke, but it's all centered in it's a very dense joke, people. Anyway, this is not on that level, but it is kind of like one of those double entendre my mom jokes. So very good stuff. Very good stuff. Anyway, so Muscle Man says he wins. I guess I win, and he gives 5s a 5. And then we cut to the rest of the suggestions. It's followed up by Pops going, we could play Bilbo Catcher. That just gets me. I don't know why, but he's got one of those cups with the string and the ball, and I guess that's called Bilbo Catcher. I don't know. And then Skip says crossword puzzle, and Ben said, fine, we'll put it to a vote. And then Mordecai, he's over there, he kind of yawns, and Rigby's got this smug look on his face, and he's like, what is it, Mordecai? And he's like, I guess we could play those boring games. Actually, I went back and watched it. What he says is, I guess we could play one of those stale old games. And then Rigby says, or we could play the sci-fi fantasy epic of the century. And he says, behold, the realm of Darthon. And he holds up this big old, it's pretty hefty looking box. And Mordecai's flailing his arms in the air going, a little bit higher pitched than that, but whatever. And then one of them's like, what is it? I describe the box to you. It's obviously like going to be a tabletop RPG of some sort. And the box art it looks like you have a Conan the Barbarian type figure on the front. Kind of looks a little bit like Adventure Time Finn when he raises up the sword, but there's a mountain there, and there's like a necromancer or a sorcerer in the background. It's very fantasy-esque. There's like some skeletons with spiked clubs, and then there's like double dragons. There's an axe underneath the title, Realm of Darthon, and there's double dragons on each side. I don't know what's going on here. So anyway, they're trying to explain what the game is. Mordecai's like, it's an RPG. We make up a story, and you guys try to beat it or something. And Rigby's like, yeah, we can use magic and stuff. And Pops is all for it. He says, ooh, a game of imagination. He's all about it. And of course, Muscle Man sounds lame. And Benson, he's all like, well, let's put it to a vote. And it's kind of funny seeing everybody's reaction. Muscle Man, he's like, I guess. And Pops is kind of enthusiastic. And of course, Mordecai and Rigby, they're like fist pumping in the air. Skips just sits in his chair and stares straight ahead. He doesn't do anything. He's like emotionally void at this point. And after rewatching this next scene, I have to emphasize that you people go and watch this episode. I cannot do justice to some of the stuff that occurs in these scenes. It's just things are lost in translation when you're explaining them, and it's fantastic. But anyway, Rigby's all like, all right, get ready for the best game night of your life. So they cut scene, they're at the kitchen table, and they've got, it looks like they have everything set up, and it's like as big as the kitchen table. Mordecai's reading from some manual. It's got a fire-breathing dragon on it. So he says, your party's walking down a long hallway. He's talking to Muscle Man. Your party's walking down a long hallway, and they get to a locked door. What do? And the Muscle Man says, he takes his fist and he smashes it on his table, and he says, I smash it down with my war claw. And then a bunch of ladies appear in front of me, and they're all, oh, Muscle Man, stop pinching my butt with your war claw. And High Fives goes just kind of levitating beside his head with this huge grin on his face, and his eyes are really wide open, and he's just kind of nodding in agreement. So the response to that is Rigby going, roll the 50-sided die to see if you unlock the door. And one of them asks, do we have a 50-sided die? Skip says, oh, we got this 48-sided die and these 2 marbles. And Rigby's like, close enough, whatever. And Muscle Man rolls it, and the dice rolls off the table, and the 2 marbles go rolling off. And he's like, did it work? And Rigby just kind of echoes the voice of the viewer at this point. He's like, you can tell he has no idea. He's like, I don't think so. And Muscle Man's response to that is this blows. And then you hear Pops holler, Mordecai, and he's got his hand raised, and camera cuts to him, and he goes, but I reckon I'd like a turn now, partner. And he's like trying to talk like a cowboy. And he's got his eyes closed, and he's like pointing right at Mordecai. Like, darn tootin'. And Mordecai's got the rule book. He's like, sorry, Pops. Cybernetic cowboys have to stay in hypersleep for 3 turns. Some crap like that. So what he says is, sorry, Pops. Cybernetic cowboys have to stay in hypersleep for 3 days. And then Skips goes, can he cast a saving throw? And Mordecai's looking through the rule book like, he can't find, he's never played it, so he doesn't really know the rules. And Vincent says, what? He's the voice of reason here. He's like, what does that even mean? Are we even in Darthon? Is it a place, or is it like some artifact? But the point where he said, are we even in Darthon yet? That got me. So I was like, yes. This is how these tabletop RPGs feel to me. I mean, the box cover art's awesome on a lot of these things, but it's like the rules are so convoluted. I just don't have time to devote. I don't know. I guess learning a board game shouldn't be an 80-hour work week. I don't know. But he's like, are we even in Darthon yet? Is it a place? Or is it some artifact? Or that's one of the reasons why I can relate to Benson. Just forget the anger issues. Forget any of that stuff. It's just like Benson, he's the voice of reason when you need him to be. So Mordecai doesn't have an answer to any of this, and he just goes, your party was attacked by a flock of man-bats. Benson the Mighty gets first swing. So Benson goes, yeah. And he tosses that dice down. And Rigby, of all people, we learn later, Rigby would be the last person you want to do the math here, but he's got like a little calculator. He's like, let's see here. Pirate samurais have +2 constitution, 3 charisma divided by a number of geese. And he says, do we have a protractor? Vince has had enough of it. He's like, that's it. I'm out of here. He's like done with this crap. And yes, I can relate. It's like, this is like one of those games that you intentionally lose as fast as you can just to where it's over. That's what this feels like to me. Like, that's why I say this is one of the most relatable episodes. So next thing that happens, all the other guys get up and they're like, worst game. Well, okay, here we go. Here's a Simpsons reference right here. Muscle Man gets up and he says, worst game night ever. And he walks off. And that's very much like the comic book guy from The Simpsons, okay? Walks off, and then Rigby's he's right. So they decide they're going to go get their money back. So the next scene we see, the scene wipes to the next morning. I'm assuming it's the next morning. And they're at the game shop, okay? And you hear everybody, oh, Darthon, blah, blah, blah. And the first thing you see is Rigby and Mordecai, like, shoving their way through the crowd. Out of the way. This is so Homer Simpson. I mean, this is like Homer Simpson, the epitome of some of the stuff that Homer Simpson does. Homer Simpson's dude. Yeah, that's great English there. Yeah, but they skip line, and it's very Simpson-esque, if that's a word. And we see a few things in this line. And first, we see a character model that, to me, looks a lot like J.G. Quintel. And then we also see one of the excellent cap precursors, another one of those blue and white caps, the dude with the hoodie. I think he was one of the character models on High Score. So just to further reiterate, they just keep pushing to the crowd. They're like, out of the way, people, out of the way. And they're just shoving people. I mean, it's, once again, sorry to beat a dead horse. It's very Homer-like, though. They get to the front of the line, and of course, they're talking to, I guess it's not comic book guy, it's like game store guy. And he's like, can I help you? And they're like, yeah, we want a refund. And he says, do you have a receipt? And they said, yeah, we got a receipt. It's right here. And then he does the little finger that he says, excellent. And I don't think it's a coincidence. He's got his fingers like Mr. Burns does on The Simpsons as well. And he's like, okay, now do you have the unopened product? And they're like, what? The product's got to be unopened. Why does it got to be unopened? And he's very much like kind of getting a little bit snobbish with him, like the comic book guy does on The Simpsons. This is kind of like the analog of that character, I think. I mean, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that. So Mordecai and Rigby kind of start complaining about why do we got to have an unopened product to get a refund? And Rigby's like, yeah, how would we know that? The printing on the back of the receipt's so small, you can't even read it. And then I about said comic book guy, the game store guy, he's like, well, maybe if you gentlemen learned how to read, then it wouldn't be so hard to see. Or something like that. And that's a pretty clever joke in itself, but it's even cooler because whether or not they intended it, this kind of sets up Rigby's character development later on in the show. So, who knows if they meant to do it, but they did it and turned out to be pretty cool. So then Rigby's like, man, come on, this game blows. And the comic book guy goes, this game does not blow. The Realm of Darthon is an RPG. That means you have to use your imagination, except he says, imagination. Like, he's got a B in there somehow. And he's like, you're probably not doing it right. That's why that's why you're not having any fun or something like that. And Rigby's like, no, the game is the problem. And then the guy that one of the several people that Mordecai and Rigby cut in front of, the guy right behind him, he's like, excuse me, are you guys going to be wrapping up here soon? And the guy, the game store guy's like, oh yeah, we're done here. And they're like, fine. And Mordecai and Rigby decide that they're just going to show everybody how lame that the game really is. Now, Mordecai's line there is more along the lines of, fine, I guess you won't mind if we tell everybody how cool your game really is. And then he hollers out, he goes, hey, everyone, don't waste your time with this piece. And he holds up the box. I just love how he calls something a piece. He says, this game blows. And Rigby's like, yeah, and he won't even give us a refund. This guy doesn't give refunds. This is kind of like one of those Family Guy, he's a big fat phony jokes. He's a big fat phony. He's a big fat. This kind of puts me in mind of that. But people in line are like, they all have a copy there. They all have a box with this game in it too. And it's like elderly people with walkers. And they go start putting them on the shelves. And the guy's like, that's it. Get out. And he pushes them out the door. And they're like, dude, we wasted all our money on this. Like, how are we going to get a refund? And Mordecai has one of those moments where he says a phrase that it's supposed to sound like it rolls right off the tongue, but it takes forever to say. He's like, we'll just sabotage this business until he gives us our refund back. And it's like this real tense music behind him, and the camera's zooming in on his face as he says it. And then I believe it cuts into a montage. Never mind, it doesn't cut into a montage. The next scene is Mordecai and Rigby driving up in the golf cart in parallel parking, and then they get out and they're dressed like a couple of morons. I don't know how to really explain these costumes. Mordecai, I think maybe is supposed to look like Thor or something. He's got these white lace-up, like high-top boots, looks like golf gloves, some sort of skirt or kilt, a cape, a football helmet with like one of the old like Dick Butkus like face guards. It's got like 2 bars, no, like really. And the thing about it is the bars are going across his chin too. I guess they had to have his beak sticking out. He's got like blonde wig on underneath that and 2 toilet paper rolls up top for like horns or something. Rigby's got a yellow cap with one of those like can holders on the side, that you got the straws, the cans of pop on the side of your head and you drink out of straw. He's got one of those. He's supposed to be a technomancer, by the way, we find later on. But he's got a white robe, and it's a white bathrobe, like fuzzy bathrobe, and it kind of looks like a speaking spell or something, but it's like this little keyboard that's roped, like hanging around his neck by like a lanyard. And everybody's like, nice costume, loser. And yeah, everybody's like, well, lame. And they're like, what? You don't like these costumes? They're just the official designs from the game book or whatever. And the comic book guy's watching him from his window the whole time, his face pressed at the window. He comes running out and he's like, you didn't use the official designs. You didn't do it right. If you were supposed to use paper towel rolls instead of toilet paper rolls, it would have looked cool if you did it right. It's like totally, that's great because it would have made no difference at all. But I mean, I don't know. It's just fantastic. The visual humor along with the execution of Roger Craig Smith's voice acting here. It's pretty good. Pretty good. And we also have a character's design in the back. Kind of looks like is it the Geico caveman from back in the day? I think it was the insurance company before they had Flo. They had the caveman. So easy. The motto was so easy a caveman can do it. We got a character design that kind of looks like that. But anyway, and I think there's also one more guy with the excellent cap somewhere around here. Yeah, he's right there. Sorry, I know you can't see me pointing, but he's right beside the Geico caveman guy, looking at Mordecai. And then I just saw here, Rigby also has a red umbrella. I guess that's supposed to be his staff, Technomancer's staff. But anyway, Rigby's response to the costumes look awesome when you do it right is, yeah, do they look awesome just like the game pieces? And he holds up this little like Smurf looking, not really a Smurf, but it's like, well, actually, I think the Smurfs in the book, no, that was the Wizard of Oz. In the Wizard of Oz, I think the people had the white costumes. It doesn't matter. It's a pixie wizard or pixie warrior, pixie sorcerer. That's it. It's like a little pixie in a blue like tunic looking thing with a blue cap and a cliched like wand with a star on the tip of it, and it's kind of like looking away. It's very it's kind of pathetic looking, honestly. And the caveman guy's like, yeah. And the comic book, or the game store guy, he's like, no, if you don't like that one, there's way more character designs. And Mordecai's response is, nuh-uh, they're all just the same character model with different names. And at this point, he's holding up like the game manual and he's flipping through the pages and it goes pretty fast, but you can see like the character designs and they're all like the same face and same body type and they're all doing the same exact pose. It's just the outfits that they're wearing are different. And that's kind of it. If anybody played like any of the old PlayStation 1 games where you get like some of the unlockables will be like different character costumes, but it really did nothing for the playability. This is kind of what it reminds you of, except probably not even as cool as that. But I went back on Hulu because he flips through this book really fast and I like paused it and it took me a while, but like I wrote down, yeah, that's paper you hear. I do take notes sometimes. Wrote down the character designs here. And the first one is, I got as many of them as I could. I think I got all of them, but I may have missed one. But there's Pixie Sorcerer, Goblin Warrior, Evil Dragon, Dancing Ghost, She-Cop, Tank Tread Wizard. And that was pretty good. It's that stupid face on basically the wizard of the park that they get the power from. It's like his outfit, but instead of having feet, he has tank treads. Then there's Vampire Archer, Goat-Legged Dude. And this is my favorite one. Surfer with Gun. It's literally just the same character design. I mean, like the arms are held the same way and everything, but it looks like they photoshopped or the creators of the game may have photoshopped a surfboard underneath him and put like a gun and like a pistol in his left hand. And then after that, you have Double Patch Pirate. I looked at the stats on this one, and the first character design it's the same face and everything, but there is a patch drawn over both eyes. So I'm thinking, how useful is a pirate in battle that can't see anything because he's got a patch over both eyes? And the intelligence and wisdom of this character model is 0. But somehow they have a charisma of 5. And I guess I saw some 10s. I mean, honestly, I'm sure they were just putting in random numbers. But I mean, it's just ridiculous. Then Scorpion Lawyer. Why would you have a lawyer in one of these games? I don't know. Goblin Warrior. I guess that makes sense. Death Ninja. And I may have missed a couple. I don't know. But like, just little details like that in this episode. And I mean, honestly, that didn't even take 2 seconds to flip through all those. So kudos to the creators for kind of putting some depth in the kind of the background content of this episode. So the response to that is simulating the crowd. Just like, I didn't know it was that kind of game. And once again, another Homer Simpson line. Nobody knows what kind of game it is. That's what Rigby says. And he says it like almost in the exact same tone. That sarcastic type tone that Homer would use. And Mordecai goes, is it sci-fi? Is it fantasy? Is it a Western? And he's holding up that stupid golf glove, like he's beckoning an answer from them or something. Yeah, I guess like, I don't know, Hamlet holding the skull or something. And the game store guy's like, it's an RPG, and the crowd starts turning on him at this point and starts walking off. So the game store guy, he goes over and they're like, yeah, that's it. Get us a refund. And he goes over there and instead of getting him a refund, he marks down the price of the Darthon games 25% off. And then everybody starts coming back and like, oh, yeah, well, I can afford that, And then Mordecai says, this campaign's just started. And here's where we get a montage. So first off, the song on this montage is fantastic for the montage. I mean, it's just got a very good beat to it. It's a cool song. Very cool song. I don't know what it doesn't sound like any, popular song to me, but it's pretty good. Just, typical like garage rock type song. Cleaned up though, of course. But anyway, the montage is basically Mordecai and Rigby like persuading the customers to not buy it. And then every time they do, the game store manager goes over and he marks down the thing even more. So what they do is like Rigby shows them the die and then Mordecai shows them how big the game board is. And then finally the manager just marks down the price 100% off with purchase of gum. And some dude goes over and buys gum and then he gives them the game. And then as he's leaving, Mordecai and Rigby confront him and they're like shaking their head and they show him the deck of cards that comes with it. And at first it's like, axe caliber and it shows like, the weapons and stuff. And then there's a Joker card in there, like from a deck of cards. Then he flips that one and it says, it's like a business card. It says like Jay's Dry Cleaning. And the guy's just like, he throws it's just ridiculousness, absurdity at this point, but he throws the game against the corner and he starts like kicking it in. And then the montage ends. The game store guy comes out and he's like, that's it. The realm of Darthon does not suck. And they say, yeah, but your costume does. And he's dressed up. He's got like this gold, like bald looking helmet. Well, it's a helmet that makes him look bald, but it's almost kind of like the Magneto helmet a little bit, but it's gold and he's got a cape on. And he's like, you have to use your imagination. And then he opens up the book and like lightning, you hear it strike and his hair flies up and his cape flies up. And then when the lightning strikes, you see the skull in his face, like smiling and he's laughing. And I couldn't find anything on it, but I think that this is a reference to Mars Attacks because the artwork, just the image looks kind of similar to the way the aliens are. You can see the brain of the aliens and the skull and all that. The imagery kind of looks similar to that. But anyway, freaks Mordecai and Rigby out and screen goes black. And then when it comes back, they are in the realm of Darthon. So the realm lights up and then the game store guy's like, welcome to Darthon, leave now while you still can. And they look behind them and it's like a road leading up to the house at the park. And they're like, we're not leaving until we get a refund. And he's like, fine then, come and get it. They start running through the hallway and some man bats appear, like from earlier in the episode, a little callback there. And Rigby's like, by the way, their costumes look a lot better now because they're using their imagination. But Rigby's like, what are we going to do? And Mordecai's like, just forget them, dude. They're just lame enemies from the game. And the game store guy's like, lame, what do you think about Man Bat's teamwork? And the Man Bat like sucks up a bunch of the other ones and spits them out like bullets. So they're coming at him, but they dispose of them pretty easily and they keep running. And then Rigby's like, next time don't send enemies that blow. And he's like, well, if you don't like them, what do you think about some mutant jellyfish, and it's like these neon-looking jellyfish. Kind of like, well, no, they're not like the ones off SpongeBob. Maybe kind of like the one off SpongeBob that went to the dance party SpongeBob held. And then he's like, Robo Bears, and it's like these polar bears with chainsaw arms. And he's like, angry tree people. And the best description I have of these are not like the tree people off Wizard of Oz, but like, honestly, like the tree. You're probably like, yeah, he's just trying to draw parallels to Aqua Teen, but really, they do put me in mind of the tree people off of one of the early episodes of Aqua Teen. And then, along with some pixie sorcerers, and it's that lame little pixie model there. So they kind of, they're a little bit of a conundrum here. So Mordecai calls out to Rigby. He's like, dude, there's too many of them. That's after he throws a knife in one of the pixie sorcerers. And the game master, the game store master, whatever his name is, he's like, come on, everybody knows that technomancers can summon allies. And he's like, Rigby. And that's what Mordecai says. And he goes, oh, okay. And he starts typing on the keyboard on his neck, and he goes, summon allies. And these 3 like bubbles appear over top of him. And it skips Pops and Benson. Muscle Man and High Fives goes always seem to get out of everything. They got out of the Susan. They got out of work in the Susan episode too. So they get out of doing this as well. But anyway, they're playing as the characters that they had in the game before. So Skips is, I mean, you can just kind of infer this, but he's a samurai pirate because he's got like a parrot on his shoulder and like these 2 swords, and he's got like a bun. His hair is in a bun. And Benson is an elven archer, I guess. And Pops is the best design. He's got a cowboy hat on, and he's got like the left part of his face is like cybernetic, like it's got a metal plate, and he has a freaking guitar, a red guitar. And this isn't the first time we'll see something like this in the series, but it's the first time. Sorry, but it's not the last. There's another one, the Trash Boat episode. But anyway, they start fighting. Benson's like, I told you I didn't want to play, and they're like, we need a refund, and look out. So Skips, honestly, they could have just summoned Skips and he could have beaten all these guys probably. But Skips starts taking on the Robo Bears, and Benson starts shooting down the jellyfish, and somebody gets too close to Pops, and he's like, and then he hits the guitar and he starts playing something on it. It starts playing this song, but it's like it's like a bass line basically, and it shoots out this big giant laser and burns up one of the trees or something, and he's like, oh, and he starts running around and they incorporate the sound effects of the guitar, the synth to the song that's playing in the background. It's a really nice song. But like he's just running around. I wish they would have had a longer scene of this, but he's running around shooting everything. And this is really good action scene, but it's only like 5 seconds long. But just seeing Pops running around shooting crap with the guitars, it's great. So one thing I forgot to mention there was that another enemy type appears during all that, and Mordecai's fighting like these. They look like lawyers with jack-o'-lanterns for heads. Now, I don't know what they're called, but they appeared. But anyway, they start getting the upper hand, and the game master's like, I changed my mind. Necromancer or technomancers can't summon allies, and all the allies disappear. And they're like, dude, quit cheating. He's like, I'm not cheating. I'm using my imagination. That's what makes this game great. And Mordecai says, that's what makes this game blow. And you can kind of tell now, like we've got about 3 minutes left in the episode. That's going to kind of be the motif that happens through the end of this. So the game master comes out. He's like, I will allow you to insult my realm no more. And he goes, behold, I am Darthon. And he's dressed up in like this knight's outfit with this big old mace-looking spike ball, So I guess the answer to Benson's question is Darthon's a guy, I guess. And anyway, the mace turns into like this skeleton-looking monster, and he sends it at Mordecai and Rigby, and they're like, ah! And he's like, still think my realm sucks, and they run away, and Rigby shoots a little tiny lightning bolt out of his finger, and he says, magic deals no damage while running or to enemies or something like that. I mean, it's some stupid rule he makes up off the fly. And Mordecai throws like this time bomb, and it says projectile weapons are cast back at the user. And so the bomb turns into like a boomerang and goes towards Mordecai, and it hits him. And then he goes, oh no, look out. You stepped in the permafrost puddle. Now you're frozen in place. And they're all like, they're stuck on this sheet of ice and they get frozen in place. So out of options, Rigby's just like, stop. And the monster stops. And then he's like, self-destruct, and the monster blows up. So they figured out that they can kind of do the same thing that the game masters do. I guess. I mean, honestly, this is just a commentary on how some of these games work. They just turn into argument sessions. At least that's what I'm taking away from this. And from what I've seen in some of like these bigger type games, I don't know. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, but from what I've seen, at least watching kids try to play like more in-depth board games, if the rules aren't completely set in stone, it just turns into an argument session most of the time. But anyway, somebody cries, nobody wins. Everybody wastes their time. But anyway, they're like, Mordecai says, we are not frozen in place. And then the permafrost puddle disappears and it says, our turn. And they start running at him. And then the game master says, you're washed away by a flood. And Mordecai says, our +3 awesomeness repels water. The water goes around him. And the dude casts a fireball at him. And he's like, Rigby says, fireball turn into kittens. And then the dude says, kittens turn into man-eating tigers. And then Mordecai says, man-eating tigers turn into stuffed animals or something like that. And they hit him. You hear the squeak of them, the little squeaky toy when it hits them and it bounces off of them. And then the guy at options, he's like, players lose their weapons when running. So their swords and staves, just stabs, whatever. Their sword and staff, because there's just one of them, they go flying off. And Mordecai says, we have the sword of awesomeness or something, which is immune to all effects or something. And the guy's like, what? And he runs up to him and then he stabs him with the sword. And the guy's like, and you kind of see the outline. He's like stabbed there and he like crouches over. And then they go back to reality. So the guy's crouched over and Mordecai was like, give us our refund. That's before they go back to reality. And when they go back to reality, their mouth is like hung wide open, like they're staring in disbelief because this guy's crouched there and he's got a ruler this wasn't a sword they stabbed him with. There's a ruler like lodged in his side, like they've stabbed him with a ruler. He's like, are you okay? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. Here's your refund. And he's like, no, that's okay. Do you want us to take you to the hospital? He's like, no, I'm fine. And he's like coughing. He's like, I just need an ice pack. And he's like staggering over to his car. He gets in his car and he goes, I just got to go home and lay down for a while. And he's trying to get his seatbelt. He's trying to buckle his seatbelt. The ruler's sticking out towards the steering wheel and he can't get the seatbelt to go past the ruler because it's like blocking it, So he just drives off. And then he tells him, poor lady told him, he's like, you beat me fair and square. It's refund. But then we hear Pops, he's like, Mordecai, and it's the 3 allies, Pops, Benson, and Skips. They come walking up to him, and they explain where they've been. And before I tell you what they said, I just noticed it's not a wig Mordecai's wearing. I think it is 6 bananas. He's got bananas draped over his shoulder. It's either blonde hair or a cape or something. I don't know. But anyway, so they're like, where have you been? And Benson was like, we were hiding in the closet we were hiding in the armor closet. And then we ended up in the stock room at Shoe Farm. I'm not sure what crap that means. But anyway, Rigby's like, good thing it was worth it. He goes, 7 bones, baby. And he's got $7. And like, that's joking us up. They're like, all that crap for $7? And then Mordecai's like, it was the principle of the matter, which my high school government teacher, he told me early on, he said, anytime somebody says it's the principle of the matter, it's about the money. But in this case, it's like, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous when you look at it that way. It's like, I don't know. And then Rigby says, it wasn't the numbers that are important. Or he's like, the numbers aren't important. If we're going to spend our money on something, then it's got to be on a good game. And then Mordecai says, yeah, something like the Trail of Eldritch or the Lair of Anthelon. And Rigby says, dude, did that come out? And he says, yeah, it came out last week. And then the last thing we see is that, and they turn around and they run to the shop. But it's like, how are they going to purchase this legally? They just sent the owner to the hospital or they sent him. He just drove off. I don't know where he went, but like he's gone. I mean, like this whole episode, that's the end. But like, it's just ridiculousness upon ridiculousness. And it's great. Like this kind of, it hits for me because it's like, yeah, I haven't played tabletop RPGs, but I've played games that these board games where it's like, and if you like board games, I mean, more power to you, nothing against you. It's just like, to me, these late night board games where you spend 4 hours learning the rules before you even get to play, and then it takes 12 hours to complete the game. It's like, crap, the weekend's going to be over before we get through one round of this sucker, So I don't know. It's like, if you can play Risk, if you can play a Risk, 2 rounds of Risk before you can get through reading the rules of a game, why bother? If you want to buy it for the art, whatever, buy it for the art, the figures, whatever. If you know how to play it, then that's cool too. But it's like, I don't know. Like, I can understand the frustration of them just pulling out this game out of nowhere on game night, and it's like nothing gets done except them setting it up and trying to read the rules. So that's okay, because that's happened to me before, or not to me, but like I was part of something like that before. So, and that was the situation in which I lost intentionally on purpose to where I didn't have to play anymore. Anyway, yeah. So honestly, though, this episode, I loved it. I didn't remember liking it this much. I knew it was a good episode, a very good episode, but I didn't think that it was this dense on the humor. The first so many times I watched it through, but kind of examining it further this time through, I've got a whole new appreciation for this episode. And it's not the best episode of regular. I mean, we've got plenty more to go, but this is the best one we've seen so far, in my opinion. It's the thing about it is it's got like a little bit of just about everything. It's got the whole regular show formula in it. It's got most of the characters in it. They're doing some sort of teamwork thing. It's poking fun of something that's, I mean, it's kind of doing the King of the Hill thing where it's poking fun at a subject, but you can kind of laugh at it from both sides. Not political, but it's more of a, like, if you do like board games, there are some things that I didn't point out, but there are some things like when they get into Darthon, they're like, Rigby has a line that says, wow, our costumes look awesome now, because it's like, okay, maybe once you get to doing this, it is pretty cool. So, now, granted, it does seem like it's a little bit more heavily weighed towards poking fun at these games, but at the same time, it's like there's something there for both sides of the argument, I guess. And then also just the detail they went into with the rule book, and just some of the ridiculousness stuff that's in there, like the Jay's dry cleaning card. That was a pretty nice little touch. And then early on, there's just a lot of dialogue that flies through this that would, if you don't sit and think about it, it'll just go right over your head. But like when you sit and think about it, it's like either that was a really good, happy little accident, or they thought that out. Because there's a few ways to take that joke, and they're all somewhat funny, at least. So, and also, like I said several times, this episode seems like it was heavily influenced by The Simpsons. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in there that just seem to have that type of feel to it, whether or not it be like Mordecai and Rigby being like a Bart Milhouse type duo, which kind of does seem, I mean, like this does seem like an adventure that Bart and Milhouse would kind of go on, maybe not like getting transported to Darthon or whatever, but like early Simpsons, them going to the comic book guy, getting ripped off, and, trying to play this game and it blowing up, not blowing up in their faces, but not going the way they want it to. But then also Homer, or not Homer, but Mordecai and Rigby kind of asserting themselves in a way that Homer would, the sarcastic type way, and then just kind of being jerks and barging through the line and everything. All of that just goes into being a great episode, I think. So I've kind of went on about it enough. Really, I think the best thing I could say is you need to watch this episode. If you like regular show, you need to watch this episode. You are probably going to, because this is a subjective thing. Subjectively, you probably will find episodes you like better. I know that I like certain episodes better. But objectively, I think they executed really, really well on this episode. And, this is kind of like, I told you before, like around Appreciation Day or the My Mom episode, I'm thinking this is starting to be regular show. This is now regular show. Okay, this is the regular show formula, and they stick to this for a lot of episodes for a while. There's different things and stuff, but they've found their footing, and I don't want to say it just gets better because, growth isn't linear, but this episode was so good that last night I watched 6 more, and they all had a lot of things in them that I really liked too. And I was just genuinely laughing. I thought, man, I needed to do this. This was good. The next episode, This Is My Jam, that's another one that's great. I mean, about these 2 episodes, there's foreshadowing in these episodes. There's things that hint at how the characters are going to be developed. I love how they're throwing that in. And I don't know if they do it intentionally or not, but it's just fantastic that it's there. Even the one that I thought, Muscle Woman, I thought, man, I guess I'll trudge through that episode. I went back and watched that, and that episode's got a lot of good stuff in it that I'm actually looking forward to reviewing that episode now. So, yeah, this is I knew this was going to be good, but I didn't know that it would be such a pleasant surprise. That being said, I'm going to give this episode, relatively speaking, not nothing but trash, not what the Macho Man would say. I'm going to give it, and it's not cream rising to the top either. It's going to be probably an 8.5 or an 8, probably a solid 8, somewhere between an 8 and 8.5. The shows do get better. I mean, but it's arrived. I mean, it's there now. This is where the show starts hitting its stride at this point. So super excited about what's to come. And hopefully you understand, or hopefully you get it when I say go watch this one, because I mean it's 12 minutes, and I can't do this show. There's things about this episode that I can't do justice by just describing it to you. I mean, there's so many things that it's I can't believe that they even said that. I mean, are they really making an episode about this? That's kind of the funny thing about it. But anyway, let's look at some of the statistics for this here, just real quick, and then I will stop wasting your time. How many views did this get? Oh, sorry, some of the pop culture references. The Realm of Darthon is most likely not a similar role-playing game. Dungeons and Dragons, I think I've already said that. Man Bats is a name of one of the villains from the Batman series, Man Bat. Yeah, if you watched the animated series, I think that might have been he was one of the early villains, if not the first aired episode. And then The Amazing World of Gumball has an episode similar to this episode called The Refund, which was released a few months later. Now, I've never seen, I've seen a couple episodes of Gumball, and honestly, I don't know, don't hate me for it. Well, I mean, you do, I guess, but I didn't care too much for Gumball. I just couldn't, I don't know, that truly is that seemed how do I say this? I don't think it was around when it wasn't super Gen Z or whatever, the stuff that the kids are into, because obviously it came out several years ago, but that's where, to me, it's I can understand the youth of this generation really liking this show, but I don't know. I can't get into it. But anyway, there we go. It being released a few months later, though, that doesn't mean necessarily that they copied the regular show. In all reality, they probably didn't. Because, production probably, I would imagine, well, I don't know. I don't know how long production on these shows took, but whatever. If they did, well, then at least they had the good sense to copy regular show. Production notes, the episode received 1.749 million views, which is down from, I think, the 1.8 of last week's episode, the one with Susan. And I don't think that is quite reflective of the quality of these episodes. I think what that, at least respectively, I think, honestly, that down that down 0.1 million views is a response to the quality of the episode with Susan in it, which, while not a bad episode, probably wasn't as good as a couple that came before it. So I would say that drop in views was just a response to this one. It wouldn't surprise me if next week's episode had an uptick in views. I could probably check that real quick here. Yeah, well, maybe not. I can't find a link to the next episode. Yeah, here we go. This is my jam. Let's see. course, the internet wants to be slow. How will the internet want to be slow? Hey, here we go. This Is My Jam receives 2.518 million views. So I think, honestly, that is a response to how good this episode was. So that's 0.7 extra million views, 0.7 million extra views, somewhere around there. So, you know, that's just my interpretation of the data. What do I know? I just took several statistics classes in college. I don't know. Whatever, who cares? So yeah, anyway, thank you for listening, and any shares, follows, any of that stuff that helps me grow the algorithm for the podcast would be greatly appreciated. I've almost reached 100 listens, and right now I think I've put out up through episode 7 of season 1. So yeah, I would really like to reach more people, but if not, whatever. I've already got, I don't know what I got, like 8 followers. That's 7 more than I thought I'd have. So, whatever. And I know I do this every episode, but we've got some good episodes coming up. We've got This Is My Jam, Muscle Woman, Temp Check. I couldn't remember which one that was, but right when I saw it, I was like, yep, I remember this one. Jinx, see you there. Do me a solid. When we get to grave sites, that'll be a good one. I wish that would have rolled around for Halloween. Really Real Wrestling. That's another one of those X-Men type storytelling where you don't see the character again for 7 seasons or something. I don't know. Really, the only 2 here that seem like they might be a little bit, I don't want to say, I guess relatively weaker would be Jinx and Skunk. And it's not necessarily I watched Jinx the other day, and it's not bad. It just seems like the rest of them are stronger episodes. There will be something worthwhile in each one of the episodes, though, worth tuning in, listening to, or watching. So, yeah. Anyway, until then, I appreciate you listening, and hope to see you again. Don't know how to end these, so sayonara.